Well, it is 1 o'clock here in Boston. Hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. My name is Dave McCormick. I'm VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software. And I'm pleased to present today, a returning guest, Nikos Kazantzis, who is a solutions engineer here at Alpha. About a month ago, Nikos did a presentation that many of you saw, in which he showed off his equipment inspection application that he had built in TransForm. And it had some very cool features in it. There was an onboard database, it made API calls, and a lot more. This time, Nikos has been working now on the back end. So today he's going to be demonstrating an application that he's built with Alpha Anywhere to augment his TransForm application. So let's get started. Oh, and by the way, if you do have any questions, go ahead and type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Hello, Nikos, are you there?
Hello, Dave. Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter, and we'll get started.
Okay.
Screen is loading. I see a blank. Oh, here we go. I see a PowerPoint. Wonderful.
Great. So, pleasure to be back. Thanks, Dave. Hello, everyone. So, this is sort of a natural progression from the equipment inspection app that we showed a little more than a month ago, which is the back office part of it. And back office, in the general sense, may mean several different things, but the general categories under which that might fall is really how do you prepare an equipment inspection form, how do you actually dispatch it, how do you review it, and how do you report on it. So probably a very basic cycle that we would want to go through with any equipment inspection dispatch scenario. And we, just to separate here the dispatch scenario from the ad hoc scenario, the ad hoc scenario is what we demonstrated last time. The ad hoc means the field user, the mobile user, launches their filler app and initiates and instantiates forms by themselves. They have some assignments provided to them via some means, verbal, email, whatever else, and then they proceed to fill in their form with no other direction or guidance. Bringing the back office into the picture allows a dispatch scenario to take place. And dispatch scenario means that the back office is responsible for providing the mobile user a form which is partially filled in and already has some of the information that they need. And in the equipment inspection case, the obvious example is the site location. What sites are they meant to visit to do their equipment inspection? So the cycle in the process would be that we create a new form instance from the back office, and we can assign it to a user there on the spot or afterwards. We pre-fill that instance with data still in the back office. Then the mobile user that was assigned this form sees it and fills in the rest of the information that is required, in this case, the inspections that were actually performed. Then when we get all of that data submitted from the multiple mobile users doing multiple inspections over the course of days and weeks and months, we need to somehow manage all of those submitted form instances. We need to search them, filter them, and review them. And optionally, but in many cases optimally, we would like to create a PDF report, so an exportable version of the data that was collected, but in a custom format, not in a just one field below the other kind of standard export, but something that would mirror something that a customer might ask for in this case. So if I may just go back to the management console for a second that we already have in Transform Central, and to show you that part of this process, so some of the steps that we showed there can already be done here, but they can be improved in many ways. So in this case, for example, if we want to create a new form instance that we would like to assign to someone, we can do that. We can create a new form from here. But to create that, we would need to assign people to that form instance manually. So we would need to type in their user ID in this field here. Furthermore, if we want to do things like pre-fill something, then we can also do that. As we have an instance open and available, we have an edit capability that allows us to go in and edit it. But this editing is static. These are just fields that we just manually type in data with and into. And if we have alternative data sources, like we showed in the equipment inspection app, we have a repository with our site data. So we would not need to type in all of this information manually, but we would expect to be able to do a lookup. And when we type in a site code like we did in the actual inspection app on mobile and say, you know, BOS 001, to get all of the other information back here in the back office as we're pre-filling it, instead of needing to manually type all of this in. So this kind of capability is not possible here in the management console. We would have to type it in one by one. And then when the forms are submitted, so we have a large number of them, so a list like this. At this level here, we have some flexibility to show various fields from the form, so we can add things that even may not be visible here, such as city, for example, whenever it's filled in. But we don't have a search capability here. We don't have a filter capability. Okay, so we can only really just view the data at this point, and then export it into some other format like Excel, where we might be able to do further filtering and searching. And also even exporting a standard report. So if I go to something which has some data in it, like this, and I say export this in PDF form, then I will get this report, but it will look exactly like this. So it will be all of the fields collected. Let me just bring that up here, one below the other. So it's like this. So all the data is there, but not in a customized report type of structure. You would need to use essentially this built into. Okay, so the effort that would be involved here would be to build something that gives some more extra flexibility to this cycle, to be able to pre-fill faster and easier and more accurately, to be able to assign easier to people from the members of the account, to view, search the form instances, filter, and then to create a customized PDF report with a layout that would match what we want to achieve. Okay, so the result is just a single component app that was built in Alpha Anywhere, built for equipment inspection specifically, and that allows us some more flexibility in what we can do, as we said, versus the management console. So obviously we'll have a live demo a little bit later on, but just to walk you through what we'll be doing in that demo, just screen by screen. So first of all, we have a create and dispatch screen. So instead of typing in users and selecting one of the forms there, we now have a list that shows the users that are in the account. In this case, I have 2 users in my account, and they appear as options for me to select. So in this screen, all I need to say is pick the user, pick the form, create and assign. That creates a new instance of that form assigned to that user. I don't necessarily have to assign it to someone. I can leave it blank, so I can just create a new form instance. I can pre-fill it in from the back end, from the back office, and then assign it to someone. So it really depends on the workflow that anyone would need. Okay. And then we have a form instances screen. This is now what shows the form instances as they've been submitted. So this is essentially the same, an equivalent screen to what we get in the existing management console. The difference is that now we have the capability to search and we have the capability to filter. And I'll show you obviously this in the app. But the point is that after a certain amount of time, when we've got hundreds of or potentially thousands of form instances in this list, we do need a way to be able to quickly get to the ones we need. Sort, by date possibly, filter by status, show only the open ones, or when we're reviewing, show the ones that need approval only for specific sites, and so on. So this element, this search element is what would allow us to do that directly in this list. And in the case that we were just following here, when we create even a new form instance, then we have the capability to go inside this form instance and edit some of its values. So here, just selecting the one we just created in the previous example gets us to the form edit screen. And the form edit screen allows us to set the actual form of the metadata fields, the who is it assigned to and what its status is, but also fill in the actual form fields or a subset of them like we have here. In this case, the dispatcher's purpose is to enter the site at which the field user needs to go. So because now this is a component that we are building ourselves using Alpha Anywhere, we can connect to any other data source that we have and then pick up the values from there. So in the ways that many of you will be familiar with, we create a lookup. So again, like we had in our mobile app, as we're typing in, we get a lookup of list of values. And as we select the values, then all of the other values are filled in here. So this can be a local database, it can be a remote API endpoint like we had with our mobile app. The point is that we're enjoying the same type of data retrieval and lookup functionality that we had also on mobile. We now also have this in the backend. So the dispatcher really only needs to select the site that needs to be visited, and then all of the other info is filled in via the database. You can obviously go in here manually and change something if you want, but in most cases, it would be done via lookup. And here's the screen where you would also, if you hadn't assigned it to someone, you could assign it directly to the screen, or you could even change the person that it's assigned to. And pressing save, this then marks this specific form instance as ready to be synced. And this is familiar probably to people who have used a UX list component before, control before, because this is the same method. So I would be updating any and all of the forms that I need to be pre-filled with data. And then I would just say synchronize, and then all of those updates get pushed back to the TransForm backend. And then since they're in the TransForm backend, the next time someone logs in on their mobile app or refreshes their mobile app, they will get the forms that are assigned to them, and they will get them with the data that has been filled in by the back office. So as this process goes on, people are getting receiving on their mobile their pre-filled forms. They fill in the rest of it, they submit to the backend, and we've got a lot of these coming in. As we said, we can filter them. We can filter, as you can see, by standard fields in the form, so such as things like created date or assign or status. But we can also filter and search by the form fields, the specific fields we have on the form. So these fields like status and assigned to are available in all forms. That's what we call the metadata fields. But we also have fields, the ones that we configure when we're building the form, that are specific to each form. Things like address, city, state, site code, building name, which might exist in this form but might not exist in another form type. So the search capability allows us to search in both of those scenarios, and also do date range searches, again, in metadata fields, like the date created from to, but also in our form data fields. Remember, in the equipment inspection, we had a date time in and a date time out, and we can filter that as well. So in this case, I filter, show me all of the open ones, forms in open status between these dates, and I get these results back. And finally, Via the Alpha Anywhere report builder, I created a template for how I want my report to look. Remember, the standard PDF output that we got from the management console was just a list of fields one below the other, and I couldn't do things like add a footer or a header with the company logo or anything like that. So via the Alpha Anywhere report builder, I built the form report exactly as I needed it, and via the component here, I just pick the form that I want, I press report, and I get a PDF output of that form with the data filled in its proper place, in the various data groups placed correctly, and so on. Okay, so that was the presentation. If everything's okay, Dave, is everything okay? Can we jump to the actual app?
Absolutely. Let's get into the app.
Perfect. Okay, so there it is. We start off with a blank list. And the reason we start off with a blank list means that we need to force a search. We need to start with a search before we get results back. And the reason we want to do that is because when we are, again, planning for the longer term scenario of expecting to have potentially thousands of form instances after a period of time in the TransForm database for our account, then the data that we will get back via any API call will be restricted. So it's not an unlimited result set that comes back every time you search the TransForm database via the API for the instances that have been submitted. So to be able to get, and that limit currently is, I believe, 1,000 instances being returned for each server-side query that you do. So to be able to get accurately the data that we need, we first need to define our search parameters, because in case we exceed that 1,000 record, we know that we might be missing some of the ones that we need. So we need to filter down our search even more, narrow it down even more. In this case, I only have 15 form instances, so it's not an issue. So I don't need to do anything like that. I just say load. And there are all my instances. This is everything that I have in my account. I haven't filtered anything. So this is all statuses, all instances that have been synced even once with the server. At this stage, I can immediately filter. So I can say only show things assigned to this user. And you can see that the dropdown is showing also the display name. So it's not using the email, which might not be clear enough. It's doing a lookup and also picking up the display name from the TransForm account. Nothing is hard coded in here. This is done via lookup. And show me only submitted items by Alexander. And I search, and there the result to come back. It's that only one form that has been submitted. Okay, I can clear my search. My data is cleared, and I come back. So standard grid type list type of functionality that we get with our form instances. So let's do a practical example like we had before. So I'm going to start with this second user here, Alexander Watts. I've logged in already, and he has no form instances assigned to him at the moment. He has one submitted one, but we've defined in the permissions that this type of user is not permitted on the mobile app to see the submitted status forms, only allowed to see the open ones. So that's why this list is blank. So let's go to the dispatch screen here. So we have a dispatch section. We update our data. So there's our user list. Came out of an API call to TransForm backend to bring back these results. And this is the list of our forms that have been defined in our account. Okay. One useful item of information that I've added here, which comes in handy for dispatch scenarios, is the open forms count. In a dispatch scenario, ideally, you would like to distribute the load and distribute the work evenly. So knowing how many open forms, so if you go back to this instance, you'll see that there are 14 forms total ever submitted synced back to the server, but 2 of them are in submitted status. So the ones that are open, meaning jobs that still need to be done or are in progress is the count that we're seeing here. So this user is overloaded. He's got 12 forms open already versus this user who is idle and has got nothing to do. So in this scenario, we would give a new instance to this user here. So we pick this user, we select the form that we want to assign to him, we press create and assign, and if all goes well, we get a notification form created and assigned. So his count is 1. Then if we go back to our form instances list, we see that this new instance has now been added up here. Okay, there's nothing in this form instance yet, no data, essentially just the status and the assigned to person is all that happened. Everything else is blank. To update that, we press edit. This takes us to the edit screen that we saw before. The metadata up here, we can still change that. This is just a reference. This is not editable. This is like a primary key of this form. We could reassign it to someone if we want, or change its status later on. But here's where we do the lookup. So we say this person has to go to high-rise 5, which is BOS 002. So that's the one I want. So again, via standard lookup, the moment I entered this, all of these fields have been filled in. And I can even do an update here and remove this text and say,
beware of dog.
Beware of dog. I like that. Thank you, Dave. Beware of dog. Okay, so pressing save, it now marks our form instance as edited, ready to be synchronized. I don't need to synchronize each time. I can do all of my updates if I have 10 or 20 assignments to do. I can just do them all at once without needing to sync every time to the server and wait for the refresh. And then when I'm all done with all of them, I just press synchronize. And it should be there. So if we go back to Alexander's form filler and we refresh, there's that new form instance. And if I go inside of it, you can already see from the title that's already filled in. And there's the data and site locations details have already filled in with the updated data.
Awesome.
Okay. So 11 more to go for Alex to reach Nikos's count, but let's not do that. I think we're okay with just 1. Now, obviously, as things come back and is filled in, this list expands. That's the usefulness of now being able to search and filter and sort, to say I want to only sort by site code or filter or reach the limited view that I would like to do to manage each day's work. I could even post edit something. So even if something has been submitted with data, I could still go inside and edit something if I choose. In this case, in a dispatch scenario, this doesn't happen. So as things are being filled in, let's say something that already has data collected, such as the example we had earlier. So let's say I have this form that just came in, it's been completed, and I want to see a report of it. So I just select the one I want and press report. And there's my report. I can save it as PDF file, and then from them PDF you can convert to Word and things like that. So you'll notice here that the site data is laid out on top, just below the header. But then when we get to the equipment, you'll remember that in the equipment inspection app, we had different types of equipment. So we had a generator with one set of questions and a set of actions done for that one. And then we had in the same section, in the same part of the form, we could select a different equipment, and then we got a different set of questions and a different set of fields. So the report builder has capabilities for us to be able to manage that inside the same section. So within the same page, we don't need to separate it and say generators on one page and boilers on the other. We can just dynamically reconfigure this. So every item that it's filling in, it checks what type it is. And then based on the type, it lays out things properly on screen. So this has 3 fields, the generator ones with the proper data below. This, because it's a boiler, has these 5 fields corresponding to the boiler checklist and the answers that were given here. And the data group with all of the actions taken listed underneath each of the items here. So 2 actions for this item, just 1 action for this item. And again, this is directly, you can save it as PDF. Okay. Now, up until this point, we've covered the dispatch scenario that we described at the beginning, at the second page of the PowerPoint presentation. But obviously, this could now extend further. So, let's say the power of a component such as this is in the customized configuration of it. The advantage of the management console, as we have it today in TransForm, is that it applies to all form types. Whatever capabilities we have here, the ones that we walk through, with the limitations that they have, but everything that's there, it is available for all of the form types. Anything I choose, I have all of those options I showed there. But I don't have the individual, more specific and special functionalities. So the purpose of this component is to add those, but specifically. So this dashboard has been built just for the equipment inspection form and app. Why? Because it has specific fields that are, for example, available only in that form. I have a search field that says building name. If I have a different type of form, this may not exist. So this dashboard would not make sense. So, and obviously, especially when we talk about the report layout, then that is another example where we have a customized layout that would only really apply to a specific form type, like equipment inspection in this case. So let's say the use case here is that some customers and in some cases the management console is fine because people might not even need to do anything further than what is available here. They might be just happy with the on submit event, sending an email with the data to some recipient, or uploading the data via webhook, or exporting via Excel. So in some cases, this is perfectly fine. But for cases where we do need that additional functionality, where we're expecting thousands of forms and want to search through them and filter through them and create customized reports and be able to pre-fill based on data that we have available, then this kind of component makes sense. And the advantage of building it, this component could be built in anything, because as we said, as we know, TransForm has an API, it has incoming points and functions to be able to read the form instance data. So theoretically, you could build this in any development platform. The advantage of building it in Alpha Anywhere, the UX control component and the list control, is that most of the connectivity that is needed is already taken care of by, for example, the list control. So when I went here and edited something and I did a lookup, that lookup is just a wizard that you configure in the UX component, as many of you have probably seen. But the transform specific items are also very useful, because remember, when we are saving this data back so that it's available for mobile, this is not just a standard SQL database that we're doing an update query on. This is a transform database with a JSON hierarchical format. So instead of you trying to trying to code how you would write that back to such a database, the list control already has such a method. So the moment you configure this list control to be transform based, then everything that we normally do in such a control, such as having a detailed view like we have here, automatically works with transform, and it knows where it needs to write back that data. The same with a report. So the report builder, we build the template as we need it, but then when you point the report source and say transform, it already knows to take that hierarchical data, flatten it out, and put it into a format that is now accessible and readable by the report builder, as if you were accessing a normal SQL database. So a lot of the effort in building such a dashboard has been abstracted and really leaves you with mostly just to configure which search fields you want. Again, metadata fields, but also form specific fields here, which fields you might want to pre-fill, and what kind of report you'd like to create. So the use case for this is that any time someone needs a more specific custom functionality for their form type, this can be easily built in Alpha Anywhere.
Nikos, that is fantastic. So a million people are asking, is this going to be available, this code that you have there? And if so, how soon? And what are the plans around that? Now, my understanding is that some of the things that you did in this application would actually be easier if you were to rewrite this today because there are some changes coming along in Alpha Anywhere. Was that correct? Or is I
That, that is absolutely correct. So
right?
actually, most of that has actually happened. So
Yeah.
in the course of the past month or so, things that were initially needed to be done manually are now included. As I
Right.
mentioned, the detail view, the server-side searching of fields. There
Right.
are only a few left for which I've now had to manually code things like date ranges, for example. But safe to say that I think it's a matter of days before these are also part of the built-in functionality. So I would suggest we can obviously the plan is to give this out like we did the equipment inspection
Mhm.
form on mobile. My suggestion would be to sort of maybe pause that for until possibly next week. We could have or
Yeah.
whenever we could have possibly another webinar, and then people would not need to have even that part of the custom code, and it would leave very little left for people to need to manually code.
So great. Yeah. So, a week or so, and it will be worth the wait because it's going to be
I
much
think so.
easier. Yeah,
I think
sounds
so.
great.
But
Great.
I think so. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think that is all the time that we have now on Transform Tuesday. Nikos, thank you very much. And thanks everyone who had questions here. If I didn't get to your specific question or you need some follow-up, please do send an email to tfservice, that's as in Transform Service, tfservice at alphasoftware.com, and we will be happy to respond. Nikos, thanks again. And
My
thanks to
pleasure.
everyone who
Thank you, Phil.
attended. To see you all next Tuesday. Take care and goodbye.